So this video is titled Why People Don't Want to Work. Now, to preference this video, I want to say I don't think people don't want to work. I think people don't want to work for people that don't appreciate their work. So let's continue. I'll address that if I have to
Okay,
in
how's
this video.
everybody doing this evening? Of course, my name is Kent, and I want to talk a little bit.
Nice to meet you.
A little bit about why Americans don't want to work anymore.
Okay.
I made a video the other night about people not wanting to work, and I got like two kinds of responses. The first response was, you know, people just need to quit whining and get a job, stay with the job, and make it work. And the other
That's terrible advice.
Saying, hey, who wants to work for a bunch of greedy employers?
That's terrible
who don't
advice.
Appreciate their employees. So I want to talk about that a little bit because there were a lot of people that made comments on that video and responded. And the first thing I want to talk about is the definition of a job. So this idea of a job, it's been around since I was a kid, and I'm 64 years old this month.
Nice.
And what a job to me was when I was a kid
Happy early birthday.
You go to school, you get a job. Once you get a job, that employer retains you and trains you and takes care of you, provides a retirement, provides health care.
That's interesting.
Provides security for you and your family.
Remember, he's 60. He said this was when he was growing up. So this is interesting. So this makes me think that, you know, they were grooming people into thinking, hey, the employer that you do work for actually does care about you. Maybe back then, maybe they did, right? Obviously, as we can see, the times have changed, and that's not true, especially when it comes to like big corporations and consumerism and a whole bunch of stuff like that. But let's continue.
And you give that employer pretty much your time, you know, all the years of your life you give to your employer, and then at the end of your employment, then the employer goes ahead and reciprocates by making sure you have a retirement, making sure you're taken care of when you get a little bit older and you can't work any longer. Well,
that sounds like
that definition has just been totally
sounds like a dream.
Blown out of the water and doesn't exist anymore. If anybody thinks they're going to go to school and get a job and have some employer take care of them for the rest of their life, they're living in a fantasy world. I mean, you know, they're living in the world of Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, because that just doesn't exist anymore. So if you want
anymore, so
job,
it did exist at one point.
I'll try to define a job as well as I can.
Yes
First of all,
no?
a job isn't being paid 100% commission. If you're getting a job and most of your income's coming from the commission, that's not a job. You know, if an employer says, hey, come make me money, and if you make me money, then I'll give you a little bit of that money back. That's not a job.
That sounds like slavery.
That's something the employer is doing to make themselves money and to take advantage of you for as long as they can. You work for them, and then when you get burned out, you can't make any, you know, when you're not making any commission,
kick to the curb.
Then you quit. You know, that's not a job. And the only reason employers do that is because the employers are just using you for your time and efforts for their own benefit. So what they do is they make sure you make money before they make money. You make money, and then when you make money, they take a portion of the money you made, and then they give you a little bit what's left over, and that's not a job. And that's never been a job, and that's not a job. And if you go out and you search jobs in the United States of America, you're going to find out most of them are based on some commission plan, if not 100% commission. Most of the jobs I've had in my life are mostly commission. So I didn't make any money until I made the company money or made the business money, and then they gave me a little portion of it. That's not a job. But that's a majority of the jobs in today's world, is commission jobs. The second thing a job isn't, if you're working at a job and you're not getting any benefits, any retirement or anything like that, that's not a job. I mean, if a job basically it means that, hey, I'm going to go to work for you, and you're going to make me meet, you know, my basic needs that I have. You're going to pay me enough money to where I'm going to have a place to live, I'm going to have transportation, I'm going to be able to raise a family and take care of myself. And if that's what a job is. A job is not commission, but actually paying for an employee,
a service,
and investing in an employee, so an employee can make enough money so they can have an existence. So they don't have to worry about living on the streets or living in some substandard, you know, housing, because they're working for you. And that's the way a lot of fast food places work, and that's the way a lot of these minimum wage places work. They don't invest in their employees at all. All they do is they use their employees, and that's why they run through so many employees, and that's why it's really not a job. So this idea of a job, it has to meet a certain standard, and that's why Americans don't want to work anymore, because the definition of a job is not a job. jobs aren't taking care of people. They're not taking an interest in the employee. If you're an employer, the first thing you need to do is you need to take an interest in your employee, and the way you take an interest in your employee is investing in your employee till your employee is able to benefit you, and you can actually reap a return or reap some sort of monetary benefit from your employee working. And if that's
that's the ideal version of that, because even in the, devil's advocate, but at the same time, this is legitimately how it works, right? So, like his example talking about fast food, we all know about, that's usually like the first job people get in life, right? So, say you're the manager at McDonald's, since it's the most popular fast food chain. You're a manager at McDonald's, and you have a brand new high school kid that comes in, signs up for the job, and then you hire them. Okay, they're doing the job, they're doing the job, they're doing the job. Eventually, fast forward, they don't like the job anymore. You say, okay, that's fine. You want to leave? Boom. You cut them, they leave. Let's pretend that uh this was a mutual agreement workplace firing, right? You're not even really firing them. They said they want to do something else, so they're basically bowing out of the fast food game. And then it's like, okay, guess what? There's another high school kid ready to come take the position of the person that just left, right? Now, let's pretend that person ends up getting fired because they're not doing the job good. Immediately, they got a replacement. Now, let's see. Let's say that replacement, this is the third person, this is the third high schooler or third whatever, whoever needs this job at McDonald's, right? This person is now having to leave, but they're not leaving. They are getting replaced due to some type of workplace mishap, right? And I use that word facetiously, right? I'm not really using that word as to what happens, because let's keep it real. If you're the manager or somebody's the manager, we've all heard of people that have had bosses try and fire them because they do not like them. And the only reason why that happens is because it's easy to replace them. It's easy to replace the fry cook. It's easy to replace the cashier. It's not that easy to replace the manager, right? So that's where you get these people that, even though they're not super high up on the totem pole, right? They're not the CEO, the CEO, the COO, or anything like that. They have this power that's above a couple people. And for them, that's enough for them, right? They feel happy just having that power, because it's power that people do not have that work underneath them. That just happens. That's just human nature. You know, bad people get into higher up positions and they do bad things. Surprise, surprise. That being said, it only happens because it's so easy to replace these people. If we weren't talking about McDonald's, let's say we were talking about Gordon Ramsay's restaurant, Hell's Kitchen, right? Let's talk about Hell's Kitchen. There's a reason why some people have to go on a game show to earn that spot in Hell's Kitchen. There's a reason why a lot of people that work at Hell's Kitchen might have been in the restaurant industry for 10 plus years. It's not that easy to just replace that person, because somebody has to go to culinary school to even get looked at for that job, which is why you don't really have to run into that issue of, hey, my boss is like, I'm sure it still exists, right? But I'm sure it's not as prevalent as it is working for a fast food chain. Having somebody that's in a middle area of power, right? They're not all the way up here, but they're not down here either. They're somewhere in the middle, in upper middle, right? Upper middle management. Usually those people aren't that mean. Let's use a nice word. They're not that mean. But it's also understandable to see why that happens, because if you're easily replaceable, expect to be easily replaced. Whatever any workplace issue comes up, prepare to be replaced, versus you've been working at a company for 15, 20 years. You're not that easy to replace because you know how the company works from front to back, which is how they used to train people for these jobs. I can't remember his name, but the guy that's making this video, this is what he said. They would train you and they would take care of you for retirement, so on, blase, blase. Why? because it was in the benefit of the company to treat their employees with respect. Now, it doesn't matter whether you treat your employees with respect because you can always get a new one because there's always somebody looking for this lower income job. So that's where the issues come around. Now, how do we solve that? I think that's a deeper conversation, and we'll have to put that in a bookmark, put it on the bookshelf, and we'll come back to it later. Let's
Not
continue.
happening, then it's not a job. And that's the reason why nobody wants to work anymore in this country, because we have made jobs into how much you can
They
get
not
out of
like
someone
us.
before
They
they
not
decide
like
to get.
us. All right, wait, what was he saying? I got distracted by the truck that drove by.
Made jobs into how much you can get out of someone before they decide they get tired and fed up and they don't want to work anymore. That's what jobs are in this country. Jobs are just how to
He living life.
maximize
That dude in the truck living life,
time so you
baby.
can utilize them until they get fed up and quit. And
Exactly.
that's
Or
why
they're no
people
longer
don't want to work
useful.
at jobs anymore. And that's why our job situation is so dismal in this country. And it's unfortunate.
It's not just the country. This is a worldwide issue. This is a systemic issue as well. This is not something that also just happened. This is something that has grown over time, and it's going to become even harder, and it's going to become even worse and more cutthroat in these industries due to automation, right? So this is another issue that comes into it. So even if we wanted to solve the issue we were talking about earlier about how people treating their lower income employees like trash, well, soon they won't have to even worry about treating them like trash because they will be replaced by robots anyway. You see? So there's a bigger issue. And even though that issue that we're talking about now, about how like the workplace culture is not good, it's toxic, it's bad for the human psyche, it's bad for the human being, at the end of the day, yes, that's bad. But they're going to be replaced soon. And I don't see a lot of people that are going to be willing to put in the effort to try and remedy this issue when the issue is basically going to be a non-factor due to the fact of automation coming in and taking those lower income jobs. It's unfortunate, but
Because
the way the
the
world
Federal
is.
Reserve is sitting here waiting for a jobs report to decide if they're going to cut interest rates or not. I mean, we're basically betting our financial system on whether people are going to be given jobs or not. And let me tell you, I see so many YouTubers, people that have had really good jobs, and you can see them too.
They're
People that
they're
have
online.
jobs at
They've had Google, yeah,
Facebook,
yep,
Amazon,
yep,
and they've
laid
given
off,
up their Facebook, Amazon, YouTube video or Google
or they quit. Yeah,
job.
back in the day they would quit, but now they
YouTube
get
videos.
laid off.
And
They
a
get
lot of
laid off
people are
by
doing that.
AI
So
and shit
even
like
the
that.
best companies, the biggest companies, the most successful companies, the ones that are doing the best in the stock market, even those jobs aren't that great. So the idea of a job in this country doesn't really represent what it should represent. It's jobs aren't what they used to be. And the idea that you think just, hey, just strap it up and strap it on and do the best you can and hopefully it works out. That's your life you're talking about. Every day of your life that goes by that you invest in somebody else's business is a day you can't get back. You don't get those days back. They're gone and they're gone forever. One of the reasons I quit farming when I was 28, 29 years old was I realized every year I farmed and didn't make a living, I was wasting that year of my life. I couldn't get that year back. So when I got done at the end of the year and just barely cleared the bank, and then I had to invest or go to the bank next year and try and borrow another operating loan. I couldn't get that year back that I lost. So eventually one year I just said, hey, I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to keep investing these years, burning up my life. And I burned about 10 years of my life up on the farm. I wish I hadn't done because it was stupid. Because
Well,
I never got.
at the same time, I hope Bitcoin, the Bitcoin burner, something like that. I hope you are able to reevaluate your life circumstance on the fact that you worked 10 years in the farming industry. That knowledge that you have is very important. Not just the farming knowledge, but to know how the the not just the company, but how the country works, because farming is an industry that everybody needs across the world. So, I value that knowledge that you have, and hopefully one day you can share that with your audience here on YouTube and show how that changed you and how that opened up your eyes more to society. Don't really see it as a loss, because the time that we do lose, even though technically it might really be a loss, at the same time, there is value in that loss. Let's not think of it as just a loss. Let's think of it as a sacrifice. because as you know, in life, we have to sacrifice in order to get what we want.
A return for it. And I wasn't waiting for that one payday year. So what they do, the way a farm works is maybe one out of every 10 years,
Here we go.
you get a good year and you start to make some money.
See?
So, but those 10 years
I didn't know that.
Wasted waiting for that one good year, you don't get back. And that's the way it is when you work at these nowhere, endless jobs that aren't really jobs as defined by a job that takes care of you. You're just wasting your life working for people that don't basically give a damn about you. And all they want to do is they just want to waste your life and use you up until you can't afford to work for them anymore. And that's most of the jobs in this country. That's why I'm in favor of the $20 an hour minimum wage here in San Diego or California. Okay. I think that you need to pay somebody at least $20 to live in California.
I think we need to look a little bit deeper than just a $20 minimum wage, man. This is a systemic issue. This is not an issue that's going to be fixed, period. It doesn't matter how much we really talk about it when it comes to like workplace issues, why people don't want to work, why the youth don't want to work. Also, some of them, they can't work because a lot of the jobs that they do want or jobs that they don't really want, they want some type of experience. How many times have we heard, yeah, man, this job, I just got out of college or whatever, and the job that, I went to college for, I went to school for, I went to educate myself with, they want 5 years experience. How can you have 5 years experience and you just got out of college? It's not going to make sense. It's something that doesn't make sense and it needs a change. It needs more than just $20 minimum wage. It needs something like UBI, universal basic income. Regardless if you work or not, you get a fixed income. Yes, there are going to be people that mooch off the system. Yes, it's going to make some people lazy. At the same time, it's going to give more human beings the ability to do what they want as humans. And I believe that that will give us a way towards utopia, a way to save the world. If humans are able to focus on their own crafts and the things that they do enjoy in life, and they do those things well, that makes whatever that is, whether it's a product or a commodity or entertainment, regardless of what it is, it makes it valuable. It makes it fruitful, which in return gives people more hope. Hey, this person can do it. Maybe I can too. And maybe just that lazy bum that plays World of Warcraft all day will actually do something else. Maybe. Or maybe they won't. But I prefer the possible positives of it than the most likely of negatives to come with it. Because it only takes one person to really change the world for the better. And I don't just mean in educating others like I'm doing. I mean something like an invention. If you give enough humans the time in the world to do whatever they want, amazing things will happen. And I'm a product of that because I've used uh government allowances and stuff like that to survive. And then I took that and I left, right? I don't live in America anymore. And I come out here to Southeast Asia and I'm living a great life and I'm having a lot of fun. But then eventually that fun turns into longing for something more. And I think this is something that's ingrained in all of humanity, but we don't have the time to really look at it because we're too busy focused on working, entertainment, or something else, right? There's multiple reasons why we haven't become the best possible versions of ourselves. But a lot of that starts with we don't have the time to focus on ourselves. So if we were able to give humans the ability to focus on themselves more, I'm pretty sure a lot more issues would be solved in the next 15, 20, 25, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100, 200, 300 years from now. When me and you are long gone, that doesn't mean the next generation cannot prosper. And at the same time, isn't that what having children's about? Isn't it wanting to make sure the next stage of humanity is fruitful and not just suffering? Right? We saw the baby boomers screw over everybody. We see the results of it. Now imagine if they didn't do that. How much of a great place would we be in? Well, it doesn't matter because that time is not coming for us, but that does not mean that we, the millennials, the Gen Zs, we cannot change that future for the next generation, the generation alpha, the generation whatever they come up with next. But it just starts with taking a stand now for the betterment of tomorrow. But let's continue.
There are people around the country that are streaming saying, hey, you're going to wipe out the fast food industry. There's not going to be any fast food anymore because nobody can afford to pay $20 an hour for someone that works behind a counter.
Bro, nobody can afford fast food now anyways. I watched Report of the Week and he talking about, yeah, I got a chicken sandwich, some tenders, some fries, and a drink, and it costs $30. Who the fuck wants to eat fast food anyway? It's $30 for something that's gonna make you more hungry in the next 4 to 8 hours anyway. It's not gonna fill you up. So that conversation is moot. It does not matter because in the grand scheme of things, life is already bad and it's progressively getting worse. Let's continue.
Well, if that's the case, then I think the fast food industry needs to go away. And based on someone that's lost about 50 pounds by not eating that stuff anymore, I think it's a good thing that it goes away.
I agree.
I think that if you're, and I've seen too many people, especially people who own McDonald's franchises and Subway franchises, they'll own 10 or 20 franchises, and they're the biggest ones complaining about the $20 minimum wage. I mean, here they own 20 franchises, 20 McDonald's
making
franchises,
all this
20
money.
Subway franchises, but they're the first ones to complain about a $20 an hour minimum wage.
Why? Because they don't want to pay people what they're worth. They don't want to better others. They only care about themselves, the innate greed that's inside humanity. We need to call it out because we all have greed. We all have these other sins, but we need to learn how to forcefully put those aside for the betterment of everything. It's not just humanity. Just everything will be better. If we did not have fast food, bro, life would be so much fucking better. It honestly would. If fast food was healthy, that would be great too. That's another conversation.
Come on, man, you got 20 franchises. You're making lots and lots of money.
Put in the book.
It's time to give some of that money back to the people that built your business. Time to give that money back to the people that were behind the counter all those years and waiting on people and dealing with the customer, and not just throw them to the waste, to the curbside, because you want to complain about this country that we live in, this country where that we want to have a standard of living for everybody. The basic thing is we need to have a standard of living for everybody.
We should.
If you're working, if you make the effort to get out of bed and go to work at a job, your job should take care of you, and it should take care of you to a point where you don't have to live, some sort of menial life where you're not.
You shouldn't be just existing.
You can't afford a house and you can't afford.
You shouldn't be just coasting.
Car, and you can't afford a place to live. That's ridiculous. And one of the reasons why we're in this predicament is because of our money system, and that's why I keep talking about the Federal Reserve System, because the Federal Reserve System has watered our money down to the point where, and then I'll take the side of the employer. The employer can't really pay a lot of money out to the employees, because if they do,
the world ain't
they won't
black
make
and
any
white.
money because of the expenditures they put out. So when their overhead is high, they're going to cut back too. I mean, you got the richest guy in the world, Elon Musk, and he's cutting his workforce. Here's the guy, supposedly, I don't know if he is or not, but he's supposed to be one of the richest guys in the world, and he's firing a bunch of people. Why is he doing that? Because he's not making money. So he's made a business decision of saying, hey, I can't make enough money to hire these people, keep them employed, and make it worth my while to do so.
There's a deep conversation in that we could have, but bookmark, put it in the bookshelf.
So he can't look out into the future, invest in a bunch of employees, keep them on the payroll, and see it so his business actually benefits by that. So he's decided to terminate a bunch of people's employment. So I think that's why people don't want to work anymore, and that is the reason why this country, you want to talk about every possible thing that's going wrong in our country today, that is the major thing, is that basically people cannot see themselves clear to go to get a job and bear down and spend the next 20, 30 years of their life investing themselves in somebody else's business. It just isn't working. So what's the alternative? The alternative is to do what I'm doing right here. Do YouTube.
Another alternative is educate yourself. Just because you're not needed at McDonald's doesn't mean you're not needed at Burger King. Just because you're not needed at Burger King doesn't mean you're not needed at Subway. Yeah, these are all, lower end jobs, right? But that knowledge that you have We did it like this here. We did it like this there. We did it like this here now. That gives you the ability to think for yourself. Knowledge is power. If you have the knowledge of how all these other restaurants work, why can't you open your own restaurant? Yeah, you would need a loan to do so. Yeah, you would have to take risks to do so. Yeah, you might just fail trying to do so. But what's the alternative? Is the alternative better than the unknown future? That's now it's down to the individual. It's up to you to weigh the pros and cons of each of these endeavors.
Do some sort of social media, do something like that, because going to work for somebody isn't going to be a payday for you for the rest of your life. In fact,
that too. On top of that, you could turn your employment into entertainment. I've seen people on TikTok talk about, yeah, this is what it's like working at Taco Bell, and it gets thousands of views, like tens and hundreds of thousands of views. This is what it's like doing this minimum wage job. This is what it's like in my life doing this type of job. Yeah, it exists. You can definitely market it as well. You can turn that, and there's this guy on Instagram that I follow. His name is the Mailman, right? He was legitimately a mailman, and he was just doing some Instagram videos, and then he became very popular. And like I'm not really on social media like that, but I followed him because I was like, yeah, because he was talking to some people in the comment section that were talking bad about him making an entertainment out of his job, and he was like, my job business. I'm doing this because I can, right? He empowered himself to do so. And then next thing you know, when I launch back up Instagram, he's on the news. He's throwing the first pitch at a baseball game. He got jewelry in his teeth. And we all know that is not cheap. You can't just get diamond grills on a mailman salary, right? So there's definitely an avenue with the power of the internet to make your own money. It exists. It does exist, right? This is definitely an avenue you can go down. That being said, not everybody ends up like the mailman. Not everybody ends up like KhunShawn. Not everybody ends up like PewDiePie. Not everybody ends up like KhunShawn. Okay? But you should expect that because that's just how it works.
If you start to get to a point where you're making very good money, now you're going to be the first person to be let go because you're a target now because you're making the most money there. I mean, I'm sure the people that Elon Musk is firing aren't the people that are making the minimum wages. Those are the people that are probably middle management and upper management that have invested some time in the company, and they're the ones he's going to let go because they're the ones that are making the good money, the bigger money. So in my opinion, this is ridiculous, and if they don't do something quickly, this whole thing's going to collapse. And I'll tell you why it's going to collapse, because the consumer has to keep buying things.
Yeah,
so if they don't continue to buy things, we can't have a balanced trade with other countries. So for instance, the way the system works is our country borrows money from the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve buys the treasury bills, the treasury notes that our country is basically giving the Federal Reserve for the money they print out of thin air. The other thing that's going on is countries like China are buying our federal debt, our debt. So Chinese are...
What he's saying is true, by the way. I paid attention in class to remember this topic that popped up, talking about the treasuries and the Federal Reserve, like where does the money come from? What is money? How does it exist? Right? And if you don't know how that works, you definitely need to educate yourself on it. Again, we could put that in the bookmark. I really don't want to talk to you guys about that because there's a bunch of stuff in there that could make KhunShawn disappear. So we're not going to talk about it.
Producing products, they're sending them over to this country. The consumer buys that product, and then they use that money to buy our debt.
Yep.
Now, if we can't buy that product anymore so that China gets the money so they can buy our debt, the whole system collapses.
Yep.
So unless the consumer continues to buy the Chinese products that are coming into this country cheaply,
made in China,
we're not going to be able to keep the whole system going. So eventually, the Federal Reserve will have to bail out the consumer, because if they don't bail out the consumer, and the consumer can't continue to buy
anarchy
the products that are being shipped over here by other countries.
Anarchy.
And then those countries take that money and they use that money to buy our debt. If they can't do that any longer, the system just fails. So that's the predicament we're in. We're in the predicament where if we don't make it so jobs are worth a while to work at, so you want to get up in the morning and go to a place and go to work. If they don't make that happen, Our national debt won't be purchased by the countries that are making products for us to buy, and then the whole system collapses. So that's the predicament we're in. And they need to make it so either the government comes in.
And that's the thing. That's another reason why, it's kind of hard to implement these new types of practices because, like he said, we are in debt. America is in debt and our debt keeps going up. Our debt does not go down, right? So if your debt keeps going up, what do you think is going to happen when the debt collector, they say, hey, you're not paying fast enough. We want what we want, right? If we're already in debt, that means we're borrowing stuff. And if we're borrowing stuff, they can take it back. That's just how it works, especially in the days of technology. I'm pretty sure there's several fail safes in the technology that we use. You got to just be a smart person to really think about that, though. You got to really be like a really smart person to think about something like that.
It makes it so. It makes it so they actually help the employer to make a livable wage for the employee, or we just simply won't have the consumer able to buy products that they need to buy in order to sustain the debt that we make every day. I mean, the debt that the trillions, and I think it's 29, $30 trillion that we're in debt right now in this country. So that trillions of dollars of debt that this country owes won't be able to be serviced anymore because foreign countries won't be buying our debt because we no longer buy their products. So that's the way it ends. So if you don't want to, if this country is viable and it keeps going, it's going to have to do something about the employment situation in this world. Because right now the employment situation in this world is broken, and it's broken badly. And unless they want to fix it, we're going to be in a world of hurt here very quickly. So all this doom and gloom that you're reading about on the internet is all going to come through, and it's all going to be true. How the thing's going to crash, and that's just the way it's going to crash, just the way I just explained it to you. So anyway, let me turn this.
And also like at this point, it's like an inevitability. Even though it's possible that we can avoid that, it's an inevitability that it could possibly happen, right? And then that's when we go into like the doomsday scenario. Do you have a bug out bag? If you don't know what a bug out bag is, bookmark, go look it up. You should get one. Everybody should have a bug out bag because shit happens all the time. No matter where you at, no matter who you are, no matter where you're from, anything can happen at any time. And having a bag packed ready to go whenever it does inevitably hit the fan. All right, honey, let's go. You got the batteries, you got the flashlight, you got the knife. Okay, let's go. Let's get out of here because it's not safe here anymore, right? It can happen. It can definitely happen.
So what round? So you can see that I'm not AI. I'm actually a real person.
I'm not AI. Someone thinks you're AI.
Actually, I'm in Carlsbad, California. I can get that camera to straighten out on me.
Cool. Shout out to California.
So anyway, another video tomorrow. Hopefully we can have some more positive news. Better than news we have had tonight. Thanks very much. Appreciate you.
This was a great video. I absolutely appreciate the conversation we had, Bitcoin Grinder. And everybody else, y'all stay safe. Like, there's a lot of education in this video. There's a lot of education in his video as well. And I'm pretty sure there's some good education down in the comments below. There's conversations to be had about a lot of topics that we talked about this. But overall, why people don't want to work. Because people aren't treated like human beings. People are treated as replaceable because they are. Unfortunate, but it is true. Anyways, I'll see you guys on the next one. Y'all have a good night. Peace.